The fire in the chamber flickered as the night deepened, casting long shadows along the walls. King Shahryar, his gaze still fixed on Scheherazade, was absorbed in the weight of the stories she had woven. She, ever graceful, took a moment to gather her thoughts before speaking once more, her voice soft and steady, like the gentle hum of a distant melody.
O king, you have heard the stories of princes, silence, and hidden truths. Now allow me to tell you the tale of the lost treasure, a story of greed, redemption, and the quest for something far greater than gold. It began many years ago, said the traveler, when I was a young man full of ambition, eager to prove myself. I was born to a humble family, and though we lacked wealth, we were rich in spirit and love. But as I grew older, I began to yearn for more than just a simple life. I wanted riches, power, and the admiration of all who crossed my path. I had heard tales of a hidden treasure, an ancient hoard of gold and jewels, buried deep within the mountains. The treasure had been lost for centuries, its whereabouts unknown to all but a few. But one day, a map appeared in the hands of an old man who claimed to have knowledge of its location. The moment I saw the map, I knew that this treasure would be the key to the life I had always dreamed of. The map was not a simple thing, it was ancient, its edges frayed and its symbols unclear. But I could read it well enough. I gathered a small group of men, and we set out to find the treasure. Our journey took us across vast deserts, through thick jungles, and into the heart of the mountains themselves. Every day we ventured further into the unknown, and every night the promise of wealth grew closer in my mind. But the further we traveled, the more the journey began to take its toll. The land grew treacherous, the air thin and cold. We fought through wild beasts, poisonous plants, and unrelenting storms. Our supplies dwindled, and many of my men began to question the wisdom of our quest. But I, driven by the vision of gold and glory, pressed on, refusing to turn back. One night, after many weeks of travel, we found ourselves in a valley surrounded by towering cliffs. The air was thick with an eerie silence, and the moonlight cast a strange glow on the landscape. It was there, in the heart of the valley, that we found the entrance to a hidden cave, just as the map had promised. We entered the cave, our torches flickering in the darkness. The walls were covered in ancient carvings, and the air smelled of damp stone and earth. The deeper we went, the more oppressive the silence became, as if the very cave itself were holding its breath. At the far end of the cave, we finally found the treasure. Piles of gold coins, precious jewels, and ornate artifacts lay before us, gleaming in the torchlight. For a moment, I was struck speechless. The treasure was more magnificent than I had ever imagined. It was as if the wealth of 1,000 kingdoms had been gathered in one place. My heart raced with excitement, and I could feel the weight of all my dreams coming true. I told my men to gather as much as they could carry, and we began to load the treasure into our bags. But as we did, something strange began to happen. The air grew colder, the ground beneath our feet seemed to tremble, and the carvings on the walls began to glow with an unnatural light. It was then that I heard a voice, a soft whisper, like a breeze brushing past my ear. "The treasure comes at a price," it said. beware the curse that lies upon it." I paid no heed to the warning. I was too focused on the riches in front of me, too consumed by the thought of what I would do with such wealth. But as we made our way out of the cave, I began to feel an unsettling sense of dread. The ground seemed to shift beneath us, and the shadows in the cave seemed to grow longer, reaching out like hands desperate to pull us back. We emerged from the cave, but as we did, the sky above us darkened, and the winds began to howl. A great storm rose, sweeping across the valley with a ferocity I had never seen. The treasure that had seemed so glorious now felt like a curse, and I began to fear that we had made a terrible mistake. We fled, but the storm seemed to follow us, and with each step, the treasure grew heavier. The weight of the gold and jewels seemed unbearable, and I could feel the very earth beneath me shifting, as if it were conspiring to swallow us whole. My men, once eager and full of hope, now looked at me with fear in their eyes, and one by one, they began to fall behind. It was then that I understood. The treasure was not a gift, it was a trap. It had been hidden away for a reason, and those who sought it out would never escape its curse. One by one, my companions succumbed to the storm, their bodies swallowed by the earth, their cries lost in the wind. I was the last to remain, clutching the treasure with both hands, my heart pounding in my chest. But I realized, too late, that I had been blind. The treasure had not brought me the life I sought, it had stolen everything from me. My greed had led me to ruin, and now the only thing that remained was the bitter realization that some treasures are better left untouched. I cast the treasure aside and fled, leaving behind the riches that had once seemed so glorious. I returned to my homeland, a broken man, and though I survived, I never forgot the lesson I had learned that day. The treasure I had sought was not gold or jewels, but peace and humility, things that could never be bought, no matter how much wealth one possessed. And so ends the tale of the lost treasure. I never forgot the lesson I had learned that day. A story of a man who sought wealth and glory, only to find that the greatest treasure lies not in gold or jewels, but in the lessons we learn along the way and the peace we find in letting go.
When Scheherazade heard the rooster crow, she decided to stop telling stories. Shahryar smiled and realized that Scheherazade would not tell any more. Of course, he had a new date the next night to continue enjoying the stories of his beautiful wife, Scheherazade. King Shahryar sat in silence, the weight of the story settling heavily in his heart. The flickering fire cast dancing shadows, and the night seemed to stretch on, full of untold stories yet to be shared.